Hey, 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 today is National Cheese Pizza Day. Yes, that's right, it is National Cheese Pizza. Not celebrating pepperoni or Italian sausage today. No, it's Cheese Pizza Day and only Cheese Pizza Day, which I gotta admit, I like a good cheese pizza as long as I've got some crushed red pepper to sprinkle all over it. Well, not going crazy, but still. Anyway, so hopefully you've got plans to enjoy a cheese pizza tonight for dinner. Anyway, while you're thinking about where you're going to order your cheese pizza from, I should let you know that the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'm back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. So welcome aboard. It is Wednesday, September 5th, and Wednesdays means I talk about war games. I usually look at war games, and today I'm actually going to show you how to play as well as review War Chest, which is from my good friends over at Alderac Entertainment Group. So, got that coming up. Really interesting abstract strategic war games. So, I know it doesn't really fit into the whole, like, really grown-yard sort of design style. It's not something you're going to sit down and spend 8 hours poring over, but it is an interesting war game nonetheless. So, do want to mention, if this is your first time popping in, welcome aboard. This is a very casual show. I just kind of kick back, talk about tabletop gaming, sometimes some other geek culture stuff as well. Now, this is a live stream, so if you are watching live, chat is available through YouTube. It's not on screen. It's how I keep some of the stranger comments at bay. But I do follow the chat, so if you want to just say hello, or you have a question, or you want to get a closer look at something from War Chest, be sure to just type it on out, and I will respond. So, got a pretty big show today. I've got a good amount of news. We're going to dive into War Chest. I'm going to talk about what's coming up on future episodes of the Daily Dope as well. So, let's jump on into the news, because Renegade Game Studios is bringing back a card game from 2017, I believe it was originally released. And, of course, I've got the dope on Bargain Quest. Renegade Game Studios is excited to bring back the fantasy card game Bargain Quest. This lighthearted and fun game, designed by Jonathan Ying, Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid, and illustrated by Victoria Ying, has already gotten a lot of positive attention, including the prestigious Shut Up and Sit Down Recommends badge. Yeah, okay, whatever. Bargain Quest is a game of adventure and capitalism for 2 to 6 players. You and your friends will take on the role of shopkeepers in an RPG town plagued by monsters. You must draft item cards to stock your shelves and arrange your displays to attract the wealthiest heroes to your shop. After that, the heroes will face off against monstrous threats. If they succeed, fantastic. If they get eaten alive, well, at least nobody will ask for a refund. Do you have what it takes to be the best shop in town? Bargain Quest is for 2 to 6 players, ages 8 and up, and plays in around 30 minutes. The game will carry an MSRP of $40 when it arrives in January of next year. So I have to point out, unfortunately, Renegade only has one image that they're officially connected with as far as Bargain Quest. I did find some other images of the different cards and things like that, but they're from other folks who took the pictures and put them up on Board Game Geek. I would have liked to have shared those with you because I like the artwork. The artwork is very nice. But unfortunately, this is the only image that Renegade's sharing right now. Gotta say, if you've been enjoying Mesozoic from Z-Man Games, then you'll be excited to know there's a mini expansion, which is on the horizon, and I've got the dope. Your zoo has been running smoothly for months, and your guests have almost universally loved their experience. Oh, so they haven't all universally loved it? Don't ask for a refund. The success has created the opportunity to add more features, and so dozens of additional blueprints are stacked neatly on your desk. Which will you choose? The new era of dinosaur prosperity continues in the Triassic mini expansion for Mesozoic. Thrill your guests with new advanced features and the gargantuan Megazoic, a rules variant for how to play with up to 12 players. The Triassic mini expansion is available for pre-order right now through the Z-Man Games website. This mini expansion includes 3 new advanced card types, all of which utilize the beautifully sculpted topiary found on certain basic cards, as well as on every card back. Build cafes near shady topiaries, place lovingly cultivated conservatories, and utilize skilled groundskeepers to provide a touch of elegant flora to your dino zoos. Mesozoic plays up to 6 players, which is already a good group size, but for a truly dinosaur-sized party, you can combine the Triassic. Why am I having a hard time saying Triassic? I keep wanting to say Jurassic. You can combine the Triassic mini expansion with 2 copies of Mesozoic to play what we call Megazoic. Megazoic. The Megazoic variant allows you to choose, build, and score with up to 12 players. You can pre-order your copy of the Mesozoic Triassic mini expansion today, and while you're guests with these marvelous new features, the Triassic mini expansion will be $6.99, and it's going to release in the 4th quarter. The mini expansion, I do have to point out, is an exclusive to the Z-Man Games web store. It's going to be the only place you will be able to get your hands on it. I have not played Mesozoic. I like the art style. Looks fun. Looks like it's not just your rip-off dinosaur zoo game that's out there that can't swing a dead cat. Sorry, kitties. Yeah, the kitties are down here in the good old duct tape studios with me today. Didn't mean to say swing a dead cat. Can't swing a dead velociraptor without hitting some sort of dinosaur zoo game. But I think this looks pretty cool. And I think it's interesting that you'll only be able to get that at the Z-Man Games web store. Okay, so my next news piece is about a pretty interesting looking, unique game which is coming from Fantasy Flight Games. And I've got the dope about Discover Lands Unknown. You've awoken to find yourself far from home. The vast wilderness stretches before you. The days are long and every night is a struggle to survive. While you're not sure how you ended up here, you know that answers won't come from sitting around the meager campsite you've constructed. You'll need to explore to find food, water, and, most importantly, a way home. Discover Lands Unknown is a unique game, and I mean unique game. It is a new style of game that's coming out from Fantasy Flight Games, meaning every copy in the world is different. Through a sorting algorithm, the combination of components found in your game will be unlike any other copy in existence. While your group of survivors may find themselves stranded in a dense forest or on a freezing mountaintop, your friend's copy may see a different group of survivors trying to escape a deserted island or harsh desert. However, each game is still monitored by the same set of rules that will guide you in your journey into the unknown. When 2 to 4 players find themselves marooned in the harsh wilderness, you must cooperate and compete to search for water, food, and tools that will be essential to your very survival. But your adventure holds many secrets. Every copy of Discover Lands Unknown is unlike any other in the world. A mix of environments, storylines, characters, locations, items, and enemies have been engineered to tell a story unique to every copy of the game, thanks to that aforementioned algorithm that ensures no 2 copies are alike. Your copy will contain various tiles, cards, and tokens, each pulled from a shared pool of components. and the combination will be different from every other copy in the world. How many times are you going to tell us that? Tiles, scenarios, and threat cards are all a part of what makes your copy of Discover unique. But although every copy is different, your scenarios will tell a coherent, thrilling story. The threats you face will be dynamic and connected, and the 2 biomes included in your game will offer fresh new ways to play. Discover Lands Unknown is a game unlike any other. How will you make your escape? Discover Lands Unknown is for 1 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, and plays in around 1 to 2 hours. The game is slated for a Q4 release and will carry an MSRP of $59.95. I have to say, I am intrigued. Now, for some reason, Fantasy Flight Games is on a kick now, excuse me, with these unique games. So Keyforge is a prime example of that, where that's a card game where everyone's deck is going to be different, which, to me, I find that pretty interesting outside the fact of, what if you get a deck that stinks? Don't know. Plus, it's early in the process, so people aren't real sure which cards are going to be overpowered, which ones won't work too well, so on and so forth. I know there's, as far as Keyforge, there's a lot of backlash from Magic players. But the reality is, Fantasy Flight Games, and even though that game, Keyforge, is designed by Richard Garfield, they're not looking for the Magic players. They're just looking at different card players. So that's how I kind of see Discover Lands Unknown. And it seems pretty interesting that you're going to have these various different biomes, and you'll have 2 biomes in your copy of the game. So I would have to assume that if you have multiple copies with different biomes, you could probably incorporate those into a bigger game. It says it's for 1 to 4 players. I'm kind of curious, if you get to the 4-player level, does that mean you have to have 2 copies of the game? I am not sure. But I have to admit, I am going to be keeping my eyes peeled for more info about Discover Lands Unknown, because it does seem like it's a pretty interesting looking title. All right, so just today there was an announcement. There's a new Dungeons & Dragons card game that's coming this November from Wizards of the Coast. And here's the dope on Dungeon Mayhem. Wizards of the Coast is ready to throw down with Dungeon Mayhem, an easy-to-learn card game pitting the wits and brawn of a party of adventurers against each other. 2 to 4 players choose 1 of 4 decks modeled after characters in Dungeons & Dragons. There's Barbarian, Paladin, Rogue, or Wizard, and sling spells, daggers, and, well, mayhem at each other until there's only 1 left to claim the treasure. Look for Dungeon Mayhem in stores everywhere starting on November 16th. The colorful art style and fast pace makes Dungeon Mayhem perfect for introducing new fans to D&D, said Nathan Stewart, director of Dungeons & Dragons. In the time it took me to dictate this quote to my underlings, I've already thrown 2 dagger cards at Shelly Mazanoble and blocked incoming damage from both the Paladin and Wizard. That treasure is mine. Everything you need to play Dungeon Mayhem comes in a small package, but it certainly packs a big punch. Designed by Jordan Komar and Roscoe Wetwaffer, I think I got that right, to bring players into the D&D multiverse, Dungeon Mayhem can be a quick palate cleanser in between marathon gaming sessions, or make for a full night of gaming with several escalating rematches. Novice players can learn how to play in under 5 minutes, while a game of Dungeon Mayhem is over in less time it takes to skin a Displacer Beast, under 15 minutes. I would say that is if you have experience skinning Displacer Beasts, but that's just me. The first thing people say when they finish a game of Dungeon Mayhem is that they immediately want to play it again, said Shelly Mazanoble, brand manager for Avalon Hill, who led the playtesting for Dungeon Mayhem, along with help from CJ Procease from the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not familiar with that player. Nathan Stewart is going to pay for everything he's done to my poor barbarian Sutha. Dungeon Mayhem will be available everywhere on November 16th and will retail for $15. The illustrations created by Kyle Farron and the 4 decks of cards represent Sutha the Skull Crusher, that's the Barbarian, Azan the Mystic, the Wizard, Leah the Radiant, the Paladin, and Oriax the Clever, who's the Rogue. Pick one of these characters and play their mighty power cards, such as Azan's Vampiric Touch to swap hit points with an opponent, or Sutha's Whirling Axes to heal yourself while dealing crushing damage to the rest of the party. Keep your friends close, not only so they can help take out the Paladin, but because it makes pickpocketing so much easier. That's what Dungeon Mayhem is all about. It's cool. So a quick playing kind of wind up, wind down game for D&D to kind of introduce people kind of to the IP. That's kind of cool. I got to be honest though, I am not digging the art style. I mean, I don't want to rag on the art style. I mean, you know, because I'm certainly no artist. But I would have thought they would have. Now, granted, I wouldn't expect Wizards of the Coast to go like whole hog and do artwork like you'd find in a Dungeons and Dragons source book. But I would have thought they'd have kind of juiced it up a little bit. I don't know. All right, moving right along, my final news piece. If you're a fan of Stonemaier Games' Scythe, then you're going to be pleased to know that the digital edition is now out of early access. I've got the dope. Scythe, the popular board game by Stonemaier Games, left Steam Early Access today, and the full version of the game is now available on Steam for PC and Mac for $19.99. The digital version of the game, developed by the Knights of Unity and published by Asmodee Digital, fuses diesel punk artwork by the original artist of the physical board game, Jacob Rozalski, with a digital interface to bring Scythe to digital audiences. Well, that's why it's a digital interface, while keeping the signature look and feel of the tabletop version. Set in an alternate 1920s, Scythe originally launched as a physical board game in August of 2016. In the game, players take the role of a disgraced leader attempting to rise back to power and lead their faction to rule over Eastern Europa. Players compete for resources, recruit armies, harvest resources, build powerful mechs, take territory, and reap their rewards to conquer and beat their fellow players. The physical edition of the game won multiple awards, including 5 Board Game Geek Golden Geek Awards, the Origins Board Game of the Year, and many more. You can score the digital edition, as I mentioned, on Steam for PC and Mac for $19.99. So I have to be honest, I did receive an early access code a while back, and I have not actually taken a peek at Scythe because I'm not a huge fan of early access. I jump in and I get kind of a feel for the game, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Just like I have been playing around with the early access for Lord of the Rings, the Living Card Game. I've enjoyed that. But, of course, the whole game's not unlocked yet. So, a lot of times, I kind of take a peek to see what it looks like. Just like Terraforming Mars. I've got an early access code for that. But you got to kind of jump through hoops to get it working. So, which is fine. That's why it's in early access, right? So very cool that this is now out of early access, because I'm going to dive into this because I'm trying to do some more video gaming and actually kind of talk about some of the digital tabletop games that are out there, as well as maybe just some video gaming. So that's out. You can get it for $19.99. I know it's a little pricey, but it is not an app game. It is a PC or Mac game, so there's going to be more to it. And I believe it now has like a really hard AI that you can go up against too, because that'll be cool. So I dig that. All right, so in just a couple of minutes, I'm going to show you how to play War Chest as well as do my review. First off, did want to mention, strangely enough, some people like to kind of follow how I'm doing health-wise, following my heart attack back in March. So if you were watching an episode early, or I'm sorry, I should say late last week, I had to go and have some follow-up tests done for my cardiologist, and got the results today, and sounds like everything is excellent. My cholesterol is fantastic. Everything is great. Kidney functions, things like that. One thing they mentioned was, seems like I might have a little bit of an overactive thyroid. So they're actually sending the test results over to my my regular doctor, right? So yeah, but I was told it wasn't like really elevated. So rather than putting me on medication, it's probably just something they're going to kind of monitor. So, but other than that, I was like really excited because my A1C test came back the other day, and that was phenomenal. And it was cool to see my cholesterol's way down. So yeah, very, very cool. So feeling pretty good. I also have an appointment set up for September 14th. Probably no show on the 14th, gang. I'm going to go see the cardiologist and start discussing when I'm going to go have the second stent put in the old ticker. So, yeah. Yuck. Anyway, well, got to do what you got to do. All right, so did want to mention what's coming up on future episodes of The Daily Dope. So tomorrow it's Thursday, so on Thursdays, of course, I love to look at role-playing games. So I will be reviewing Overlight from Renegade Game Studios. Very, very impressive book, very well done, very nicely presented, put together, but you'll have to wait for my review. Then on Friday's show, I will be reviewing Tiny Epic Zombies, woohoo, from Gamelin Games. So that will be on Friday's show. Next Monday, I am going to unbox and take a first look at The Captain is Dead Lockdown. This is the second game in the Captain is Dead series. So my understanding is that the crew is captured and the crew has to escape from this like alien prison. So that is that. That's on Monday's show. Then on Tuesday's show, I will be unboxing and taking a first look at Fist of Dragonstones, the Tavern Edition from Stronghold Games. And it is Great Designer Series number 10. So that's what we've got cooking on the rest of the week and early next week as far as the Daily Dope. All right, so I know plenty of folks are probably going to check out this video to see what I think about War Chest. Oh, hey, thank you, John. Yeah, it's strangely enough, John mentions, hey, thanks for the health report. Yeah, weirdly enough, I get people who will email and ask, so, you know, how am I doing? How am I feeling? Which is nice. I mean, that's kind of nice. It's better than you suck. I hate you. You know, which I do actually get some emails like that. But yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for giving me a thumbs up as far as the health report. I know I feel kind of weird sharing that, but some people kind of like to know about it. All right, so hey, thanks for watching, John. So as I started to mention, I'm sure people are going to be checking this out so they can find out more about War Chest, which is from Alderac Entertainment Group. The game is designed by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson. It's for 2 or 4 players. It's not 2 to 4 players, but 2 or 4. Ages 14 and up. You can knock out a game in around 30 minutes with 2 players, about 60 minutes with 4 players once everybody kind of understands how to play the game, which it is not difficult to learn. And the game does carry an MSRP of $49.99. It is out now. I believe it is out now. I think some online retailers are sold out. While other online retailers, I did see still have it. And don't give me a hard time. I'm just mentioning online retailers. Go check out your friendly local game store. See if they've got it. I think AEG has a store you can order from online. I'm not sure. Huh. You'd think I'd know that by now. All right, so let's move on over to the other camera because I've got this set up. I've got this set up kind of as a 2-player game. So this is an abstract war game. So you're going to be looking to control different areas on the board that are marked by these symbols here by utilizing the units available to you. So first thing I want to show off a little bit are the components. Now, I did an unboxing video last week to kind of show these off. And this is, the production quality on this is really, really nice. And one of the big standouts are the actual unit tokens, or coins, if you want to call them coins. And really nicely done, kind of like poker chips. They got a lot of heft to it. It's like, did you hear that? Let's try it again. Yeah, so the box itself with all the different tokens in it has some good heft to it. And I'll kind of show you some of the tokens. Now there is there's a plastic cover for this. I just happen to have the cover off of it, but very nice. Pops right in there. Interestingly enough, once you put the board and the tokens and the cards and everything else into the box, there seems to be enough space for another rack of tokens, of these coins, so these chips, whichever one you want to call it. So I would not be shocked to learn that there are some expansions, or an expansion on the horizon in the future for War Chest. Right, so got the coins. The board is nicely done. Doesn't take up a ton of room. I actually just have the two competing forces. Usually it'd be across the table from each other, but I've got it kind of set up over here so you can get a good look at everything. Each of the players will receive a bag for their faction. There are two factions. So I've got one which is a wolf. Very, very nicely done. The other is, I keep saying this is a raven. I don't know what bird it really is supposed to be. Maybe they mentioned it in the rules and I just didn't run across it. So we've got these. There's two of each because you can play up to 4 players. Each side also has... Now, these are just cardboard. There was a punch board. These are control markers. So in a 2-player game, which is what I've got set up, you're looking to place your 2 control markers you've got out on the board already, as well as 4 additional ones. That will increase if you're playing with 4 players. So we got that. We've got initiative coin. So it's dual-sided here. And I'll talk about initiative in just a moment. So I've got these units already set down here. So we've got the cards. Nice card stock once again. You know what? I'm going to put my reading specs on. And these are some of the units that I'm not utilizing. But when you're looking at the unit, it's going to tell you what it is. So this is a scout. That is the matching symbol that you're going to see on the tokens. And that's going to tell you how many tokens are part of that unit. And there are 5 and there are 4 that are available to you. Then it's going to show you what does it have, like a special attribute? Does it have a special tactic? So right here with the little exclamation point, that's something that's always in effect. So basically what this is saying is that Scout, when it gets deployed, can be deployed anywhere adjacent to a friendly unit, because normally you can only deploy to control areas that you control. We kind of made it out like these were like cities or towns. You can make it as abstract, or if you want to create a little bit of a story to it, you can. But we thought it made more sense that these are like probably communities or strategic locations that need to be taken on the battlefield. Kind of give you an idea here. We've got the pikemen. It's showing what the pikemen. It's when the pikemen get attacked, they automatically will do 1 damage. They will destroy one of the attacking units. Got the mercenary. So a lot of these are just showing the attributes, I should say. But here, for an example, this is a tactic. So that'll show what the marshal does as far as the marshal's tactic, which is choose a friendly unit that's within 2 spaces of the marshal. The chosen unit attacks if able. Got the lancer. So there are 16 units overall in the game, and you can arrange to to do a few different ways of selecting your combat units for the game. So in a two-player game, each side is going to have four types of units. In a four-player game, you're going to have two sides. You're going to have two teams, and each of the players will actually receive 3 units. One thing to point out in a two-player game with the board here, see how we've got these darker hexes over here? These darker hexes are effectively out of play for the two-player game. They are in play for the four-player game. So pretty easy peasy as far as that goes. So this is an abstract war game. It's got elements of bag building, which I have to laugh when we talk about that mechanic, bag building. It's like, no, the bag's already built. You're not really building the bag. You're building what's in the bag. So anyway, so I started to talk about how different players can arrange their units, how they're going to select the units that are going to be in their armies. So for a two-player game, what you can do is you can just shuffle up all the cards, deal out 8, flip them over, and then each of the players can draft, go back and forth. So for an example, you could say whoever gets a draft first goes second in the round, in the game. So you can say, oh, okay, well, I want the marshal. Other player says, yeah, I want the pikemen. So on and so forth. So you just draft your 4, or if you're playing the 4-player game, you can draft your 3 on each of the player for each of the sides. Another interesting aspect you can do is you can just take all the cards, shuffle them up, and deal the players 4 cards. I found that kind of interesting because I'm always looking at like history and things like that. And of course, yes, this is an abstract game. But to me, it's sort of like, wow, okay, so I've got these 4 units. What the hell can I do with these guys? You know, it's like, makes the game a little more thinky, in my opinion, when you're sitting there going, wow, I got these units that aren't all that great. How am I going to pull this off? But I'm sure most people are going to go with the drafting aspect. So what you end up doing is you'll have so many of your units, right? So these are Royal Guard. So these are the Royal Guard. This is the Royal Guard card here. And it's actually got a couple of special effects. One is that everybody has a royal coin. So I'll give you an example. That is a royal coin for the Raven side. This is the royal coin for the Wolf side. There's 2 of each in the game for up to the 4 players. So you're going to actually have, each player is going to have one of their royal coins in their bag. So the royal coin it does some things, but it's not like a wild card that you can do a bunch of stuff with. Well, with the Royal Guard, you can actually use the royal coin as if it is a Royal Guard coin. But for the most part, the royal coin is just something that you're going to play face down. So you're going to have your royal coin in the bag, and then you're going to take 2 coins, 2 tokens from each of your units, and you are going to place them in your bag. So you're going to have your starting tokens that are in the bag that you're going to draw from. On each round, each player is going to draw 3 tokens from their bag. So give me an example. And now, of course, you keep them hidden. You don't show them off. So since I got this set up as a 2-player game, I'm going to reach in. I'm going to grab those 3 for the wolf. Let's say the wolf player is going first, and the raven player is going second. So you're going to simultaneously pull your coins out. So there's 3 there. So let's say the wolf player is going first. I'm going to put those over on the side. So what do we got? So we got a Royal Guard. So we got a Royal Guard token. We've got the Royal Coin. And we've got the Swordsman. So you've got these 3 items here. So we got these 3 to start off with. Now, of course, these would be hidden over here. Okay, whoop, nobody can see them. But for the sake of showing this off, I'm going to leave them visible. So you've got a few options what you can do with your coins. You can, once you have these coins, you could oh, and I should show you right here on the back of the rules is everything you need to know. I should have showed the rules off. The rules are very, very nicely presented. There's some examples, things like that. Pretty simple to get into the game and figure out how to actually play. So really, you got about 10 pages of rules. Then we've got we got an FAQ, which comes in very handy. And that's 3 pages, almost 3 pages here. But everything's right here on the back of the rule book. So what you can do is once you have your coins, oops, as I picked that up. Nope, actually that's supposed to go there. So let's say the wolf player says, okay, I am going to deploy my swordsman. Boom. So once again, you can only deploy in a location where you've got a control marker. The game ends when one team, one side, has all of their control markers out on the board. So in a 2-player game, you're looking at 6 control markers. So that'd be the first thing that player would get to do is, okay, they would get to deploy. Then it goes over to the other player's turn. So the other player also has a royal coin. They've got, I'm gonna move these over a little bit. They've got cavalry. They've got footmen right now, as well as the royal coin. So they decide, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I am going to deploy cavalry. And looking at the card, it's going to show that you get 4, and it shows their tactic is they get to move and then attack. So they get to move 1 hex and attack. Interesting aspect with these tactics is that you have to actually perform exactly what is on the card, almost in a chess-like way. So for an example, in chess, you can't just move the knight however you want the knight to move. You have to have the 1 square and then the 2 squares. Same exact kind of prospect here for war chest. Each of these units, you actually have to, when you use a tactic, you actually have to be able to perform the tactic exactly as it shows on the card for the unit. And if there's any questions, boom, you have to frequently ask questions right there. Okay, so then it would move back to the wolf player. So the wolf player says, okay, well, with the royal coin, what I can do with the royal coin is I can claim initiative. So you can take the initiative, which basically means whoever's got the initiative is going to be the player who's going to go first in the next round. So each round is basically you're going to play 3 coins, 3 tokens. You're going to reach back into your bag, start up your new round. So this player decides, okay, I'm going to spend my royal coin because normally it's played face down. They can actually go and decide to, all right, face down, I got the initiative token. So then we go over to the Raven player. The Raven player says, okay, well, I got this royal coin too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend it. And this is like your discard pile. This is where you have like your discard pile here. So I better move that over there, because we still have this that we can use. And this player decides, okay, you know what? I want to recruit. I want to be able to recruit another unit. And they say, okay, you know what? I want to be able to get some archers out there. So that'll actually go into their discard. So if you're familiar with deck building games, very, very similar sort of mechanic is you're getting stuff to add into your bag as you're playing. So let's say, okay, boom, there we go. So now they have recruited that. So then we get back to the wolf player and they say, okay, well, I've got the royal guard here, so what should I do? Well, if they want, they can actually take the coin and deploy it just like so. If they want to do that, they could do that. But let's say, for an example, that this player says, all right, what I want to do is I actually want to get another swordsman out here. So they would do that. So just like a deck building game, when you run out of cards in your deck, you reshuffle and you add the new cards that you've brought into your discard pile, is normally how a deck building game works. Same sort of aspect with war chest with the bag. So let's take out 3 more. So this would be the next round. And got 3 more. Oh no, I'm sorry. I forgot. You had the footman. So this player decides he's going to deploy the footman. So then we've got 3 for this guy over here. All right, so player who's got the initiative token is going to be the one who always has the initiative. They're going to go first in the round. So one of the cool things is you may want to, one of the last things on your turn is you may decide you want to play a coin, play a token to grab the initiative, because that means you'll get to go first again on the next turn. All right, so what do we have here? So we've got light cavalry, and we've got crossbowmen. And then for the Raven player, we've got cavalry, axemen, and another axeman. So we might be sitting here and say, okay, well, so the wolf player says, all right, so I am going to deploy my light cavalry. And their tactic is they get to move 2 spaces. Every unit can always move 1 space or attack an adjacent space, except for archers. Archers may not do that. Archers cannot attack an adjacent space, which is kind of a historically accurate sort of aspect to the game, because normally archers during the medieval era would not have been out there like, oh yeah, okay, boom, here comes the infantry, let's go get them. No, they tried to stay away, and that's why they were firing their bows. So plus, usually infantry or cavalry, anything like that got engaged with archers, the archers would be. All right, so anyway, so we've got the light cavalry was deployed. Now, this player here, they already have cavalry out. They've got a new cavalry token, so they could do a few different things. They can activate the unit. To activate the unit, you must spend a token, a matching token for the unit. So if you wanted to, you could spend it to move it 1. You could spend it to attack an adjacent unit, or you can spend that to activate its special tactic that's available to it. Now, keeping in mind, you must be able to do that tactic. So there's nobody here to attack. So the player says, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend this to bolster the unit. So like you're adding more troops to that unit. So you're making it a tougher unit. So that's what the player decides they're going to do, is they're going to do that. So we go back over to the wolf player. And the wolf player says, okay, well, I've got another light cavalry. I'm going to spend this. And I'm actually going to move the light cavalry, because the light cavalry, their tactic is they can move 2 hexes. That's a legitimate move. That's fine, because the tactic doesn't require it to make an attack or anything like that. The tactic just allows it to move 2. So then we would go back over to the Raven player, and the Raven player is sitting there and they say, okay, well, I've got these 2, but I can't deploy anybody yet because I haven't moved these guys off of my control markers. So remember, you can only deploy, unless it's a special unit like the Scout, you can only deploy these on an area that you control. So the player's going, darn it, I should have moved my cavalry, but I didn't. Rats. Oh well. So what they'll end up doing here is they're going to spend, and of course, if you're not activating a unit, you don't have to show off what your token is. You can just spend it like so, and they decide, okay, you know what? I want to recruit another unit of footmen. Now, one thing I should point out too is you can only have one of each type of unit on the battlefield at one time, except for the footmen. The footmen can have 2 units here. You can have 2 separate units of footmen. So, like I said, there's all these little kind of, odd little abilities, and I don't want to say odd, but unique little abilities that each of the units is going to have. All right, so they decide they wanted to spend that to recruit another unit of footmen. So then we would move to the wolf player, and the wolf player is sitting there like, okay, well, I got the crossbowmen. I now have an open recruiting area. Boom. So I'm going to deploy the crossbowmen. And then we would have the final turn would be, okay, so Raven player says, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to spend this over here, and I want the initiative. So they decide they take the initiative back. Now you reach into your bag. You've got the last 3 for the wolf player. We've got the last 3 for the Raven player. So there we go. All right. So the Raven player is now going first. So now Raven player says, hey, I'm not making that mistake again. So I am going to play the footman. And of course, you have to show that it's face up because you're going to activate the footman. And I want the footman to move. So they move 1. All right. Then we've got, so we've got the swordsman for the wolf player. Wolf player says, okay, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolster my swordman. Back over here. All right. Well, now I've got archers. I've got archers available. I am going to deploy the archers because the Raven player now has an area that they can, they have a control area that's open that they can deploy one of their units to. Then we go back over. Okay, so now we go to the wolf player. Wolf player says, well, I got the crossbowmen here. I'm going to play this. I'm going to activate them to move them 1. And then open up this control area here. Boom, go back over here. Player says, all right. The Raven player says, okay, so I'm going to spend this so I can move my archers. And they move the archers. Spend that. And then player here says, okay, so I've got the Royal Guard. I'm going to play the Royal Guard. So now both players have now emptied their bags. So you're going to take the tokens that have been discarded, put them into the bag. Everything that's been discarded is going to go into the bags. Just like so. So once again, new round. Going to pull 3 there. And we're pulling 3 here. So the Raven player once again is going to go first. See what the Raven player has. So they've got their royal coin. They've got an archer. And they've got the axemen. So that's what they've got. They're going to be going first. Here we've got a royal coin. That's kind of odd. Keep pulling the royal coins for both players at the same time. Another royal guard and another light cavalry. So it is the Raven player's turn. They've got the initiative here. So they're like, oh, sweet. Because the archer can attack from 2 spaces away, from 2 hexes away. Look what's sitting here. Oh, look at that. We got light cavalry sitting there. So the player decides, hey, I'm going to play one of my archers, place it there, and I'm going to attack the light cavalry. So basically it's step reduction. It's 1 step, 1 attack. So the light cavalry would now be removed from the game. So they're gone. The light cavalry has been wiped out. That unit has been wiped out. All right, so next we see, okay, well, great. So we've got the player here. The wolf player says, okay, I'm going to play the royal guard. No, actually, he's going to bolster the royal guard because they have a royal coin, which actually allows them to activate the royal guard to move them. All right, so they decide they're going to bolster, they're going to reinforce the royal guard. Then we've got player over here. He's got the royal coin as well as axemen. So he says, okay, I'm deploying some axemen. So now it looks like, hey, things are turning for the Raven player. Go back over here. We got the royal coin. We got the cavalry. So the wolf player says, hey, I'm playing my royal coin because that means I can activate my royal guard and move them. Move them there. Back over to the Raven player. Well, they got the key, or I should say the royal coin. Why did I say key? Because it's got a key on it. Got the royal coin. They go, okay, I'm spending the royal coin. And I am going to recruit another archer. Whoop, why did I just put it in the bag? Duh, it's supposed to go to discards. I'm sitting here trying to figure... I'm playing like schizophrenic, right? Okay, so what would I be doing? They said, okay, they're going to recruit another archer. Now, the archers only have the 4 tokens. You can see right here, only got the 4 tokens. So, yep. So then we would be the last coin here. We got light cavalry, and the wolf player says, okay, I'm deploying the light cavalry. Now, everybody reaches back into their bag again. So, for an example, there are only 2 tokens in the wolf player's bag. So what they would do is any of their discards, just like in a deck building game, right? When you can't draw your hand, you're going to actually put your tokens back into your bag. So there's only 1 token, so of course, obviously, that would have been pulled. Whereas here, we've got 4 tokens still for the Raven player, and they would draw their 3. Now remember, once again, the Raven player's going first. It's like, wow, this is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. So, the Raven player says, I am going to play one of my footman tokens to move the footman there. So now the footman is on top of a control area, but that doesn't mean that it's going to control this area yet. You actually have to spend another token for that unit to be able to take control of this area here. So it goes over to the other player. So he says, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do is I am going to use the royal coin once again, and I am going to move the royal guard onto that location. Then back over here. All right, so we've got the footman again. Going to play that footman, and now that footman can say, okay, I'm spending that to take control of that area there. So now they're closer to victory. And then we finally have the other player here. We got the crossbowman. as well as the swordsman. So you might decide, okay, I'm going to play the swordsman to move them out. So that goes over here. Got the archer. Well, look who just moved into their range again. Ha ha ha. So they play that. The archer attacks the royal guard from 2 hexes away. Royal guard loses that. So everything's going really good for the raven player and not so hot for the wolf player. So what you'll do is you would continue to be recruiting units and moving your units around on the board while you're trying to get to these locations to control them. So one of the aspects is when you're going to control an area, which I think is kind of cool, is just because your unit moves onto that hex doesn't mean, boom, you automatically control it. You have to activate that unit again to be able to take control. Just like, for an example, let's say that the Royal Guard ended up here on this control token. Well, the Royal Guard's part of the Wolf faction, so you would have to actually spend one of the tokens for the Royal Guard to remove this. So it's almost as if, okay, so we were laying siege to that city to remove the control, and then you would have to spend another token to be able to take control and give it to the Wolf faction. So really like how that operates like that, because it just, to me, it has like a little bit of a historic flavor to it, where you would usually in a city, you would have the army actually lay siege, and the siege could last for months, sometimes years. So I like the fact that you don't just move your unit on top of a control area and boom, you automatically have that area. Some other stuff to keep in mind. So you can have as many of these stacked up as you want. So you're actually building more powerful units. But you have to actually, at the same time, kind of juggle the fact that the only time you're going to get to activate this unit is when you draw this token. So one mistake that Cameron made, my nephew Cameron, the first time we were playing was, so I told him, I said, you know, there's no stacking limitation here. You can have as many as you want on here. And he's like, oh, okay. So he had like all of his units stacked up on top of each other. And I said, well, now you understand that you're not going to be able to do anything with that unit. I can just bring guys over and attack and just keep whittling away your forces, and you won't be able to do anything to me because you have no way to activate them. And he was like, oh, I get it. So it gets to the point where the tide will turn. So you'll see that to win the game, you're basically looking at, you need to have your control markers out there. So as I mentioned, in a 2-player game, you're looking at a grand total of 6, but you started off with 2. Okay? So it'll get to the point where you've taken your losses, and you know, whenever you lose a unit in battle, it's discarded. It's taken out of the game. There's no way for you to recruit those forces again. That's kind of it's a built-in mechanic to help speed play. There's no way for you to ever get any token, any unit that you lose back. So what'll eventually happen is one side will kind of be hamstrung. They might have, you know, a handful of units kind of hanging out around on the board, but they get to the point where they really can't do anything to respond to what you're doing. Or you might be the one who's stuck and you don't have any way to respond to your opponent moving around and taking over the various different control locations, like so. So that is pretty much how you play War Chest. I love the fact that every one of the 16 units has something a little bit different that it does, although they all share the same basics where, okay, so if I spend, so for an example, if I spend the crossbowman to activate the crossbowman, I could attack next to me, or I could move one. It doesn't matter what their special attribute is or what their special ability might be, their tactic might be. So all in all, that is pretty much War Chest in a nutshell. It's very, very easy to get into. Once you just understand what can you use the coins for, or the tokens, I should say, for, you can either bolster it, you can use it, play it face down to be able to take control. You're basically looking at using any coin to recruit more units, so you don't necessarily have to spend a light cavalry token to recruit a light cavalry token. So, like I said, it takes 10 minutes really to learn how to play this, and it takes a bit of time. I like the strategic aspect to it. I love the fact that you don't know what your opponent has. You don't know what your opponent's pulled out of their bag. So you'd be sitting there like, okay, well, I see he's spent a couple of these archers already, and I don't know, do they have another archer token in their hand? And maybe I have an opportunity, I can move up and attack their archers. Then again, if I get within 2 hexes and they have that, they have the token, then my unit's gonna be in trouble. They're gonna get attacked by the archers. So I like the fact that you never know what your opponent has as far as the tokens that they've drawn from the bag. You can kind of pay attention to the discards, get an idea, but then sometimes, you know, those could have been spent face down. I don't know what those were. They were just spent as face down tokens. So really, really like that. So overall, what do I think of War Chest? Well, obviously enough, I think you can kind of tell, I really like it. You know, and I'm not huge in abstract games normally, but while this is an abstract war game, there is more meat to it than a lot of just like kind of like abstract Euro style games, where usually those kind of have like a puzzle aspect to them. This is just abstracted because you're not sitting there rolling a bunch of dice and taking into account where it's like, oh, well, so my heavy cavalry is on this hill, and you've got light infantry, and they're within charge range, and okay, so I get a modifier for racing down the height and blah. No, none of that. That's why it's abstract. So I think the component quality is excellent. Really, really nicely done. I love these tokens. I love these coins. They just feel good in your hand. Unlike, you know, like a cardboard counter or something like that. The game would still be a blast if it just had, you know, cardboard counters. That's no big deal. But I do really think that AEG went that extra mile, give it some extra polish by including these really, really cool, almost like poker chips in the game. I love the fact that it's super easy to learn the basics of. I also dig that I have to pay attention to what my opponent is doing, as well as what units my opponent has, to make sure I don't accidentally get in range of somebody that, like the archers, for an example, at the wrong time when I know they can attack me. So I like that. I like how each of the units has just some different wrinkle to them. I mean, some seem more powerful than others, but they're pretty well balanced all in all. I do dig the aspect of drafting, just taking your 8 units from the 16, dealing them out, and then each player drafting those units. Or in a 4-player game, you would actually have dealt out 12. So I like that. It plays equally as well with 4 players as it does with 2. I mean, really, it's just kind of breaking up a 2-player game to make it 4 players. It's not really changing a lot of aspects of the game, but it is kind of cool where you're trying to coordinate with your ally on your team. So I think that's pretty cool. And of course, when any of the units say they do something with a friendly unit, that means your team, not just necessarily you. So I like how it plays equally as well with 2 or 4 players. As far as any drawbacks to it, I honestly don't have any. The only thing I can say is, you know, for really serious war gamers out there, obviously this is not going to have a huge amount of appeal unless they are looking for something that kind of is a gateway game or something that you can bust out and play in about 30 minutes and kind of give you a little bit of that, scratch that itch a little bit, where it's like, yeah, so I took my axemen and my axemen wiped out a unit of your archers or light cavalry or what have you. So it's not necessarily a critique. I'm just saying that people who are really, really serious war gamers, people who tune in to check out like my GMT unboxings or GMT reviews, maybe this won't be for them. Also, I could see a little teeny bit of analysis paralysis with some people, especially if they're not paying attention to the special tactics or special abilities of the units. Could kind of throw people. I know it took a game for Cameron to get under his belt before he really understood kind of what was going on. Just like I had mentioned, he had the big stack of, I think it was swordsmen, amazingly enough. And I was like, well, you do realize now that you'll never be able to move those guys. They're just going to sit there, just cannon fodder now. It's like, huh? I was like, yeah, you needed to pull a token to do anything with these guys. So anyway, all in all, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give War Chest an extremely solid 9.1. The only reason I'm not giving it a 10 is it's not necessarily revolutionary. I mean, we have seen games like this in the past, but I think production quality, everything all together, really, really good, and it deserves a place on most gamers' shelves, I can tell you that. All right, so there you have it. Those are my thoughts about War Chest from Alderac Entertainment Group. So that is it for today's show. Hey, actually a little shorter. I thought this was actually going to go a little longer, but no, hey, me talking about the game is longer than it actually takes 2 players to play it. So anyway, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. I will be back tomorrow. Let me grab it. I will be reviewing Overlight from Renegade Game Studios. And it's interesting, I'll tell you that. I'll give you that hint right now. So, I'll be back tomorrow. And as always, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. And thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.